So here we are. It's another Friday and another opportunity for us to spend a little time and share updates with you and make sure that you know what we know in terms of Wellspring's work these days as we continue to battle the COVID-19 virus and the pandemic that's facing our entire world, let alone our nation and our communities. So a little bit different again this week. Sean DeFore is with me as well on video uplink, as you'll see in a moment. And we're both in different places than last time as well. I'm actually spending my day out here at our Saginaw Senior Living campus. It's just given me a great opportunity to work alongside the staff a little bit, tour some of the things they're doing, see their work with respect to infection control and all the things they've put in place that have just been really, really important. And frankly, just to thank them a little bit and give them a little support this way. So Sean, I know you're somewhere else today too. So where are you and what are you up to this morning?
Hey, Dave, thanks. I'm down here at our Livonia Woods skilled nursing facility, and I've been working with the staff here as they're starting to set up their isolation unit in case we have any folks that are discharging from the hospital who have become positive or anyone in the facility pops up positive. We've been working on setting up those kinds of units in all of our facilities for some time. So. And also similarly, just to say thanks and see how things are going and how staff are doing. And it's just an amazing team out here. I couldn't be more pleased.
Yeah, they're doing such good work in all of our facilities and programs right now. So last week we talked a little bit about the fact that COVID-19 had found its way into Wellspring in a couple of our campuses. And the update this week is that we've seen in both of those places, our number of cases have grown a little bit, but we also believe they've stabilized, and that's a good thing. And so again, the staff have been working hard to both mitigate and contain, and those efforts are paying off. And so we're far from out of this as we continue this fight, but I can tell you that. From last week to this week, although we did see a growth in some cases, it's very well contained at the moment, and we're going to continue to pray that that's the case. So Sean, so what else is going on, within our staff? How are they doing, and what other efforts are underway?
Yeah, the staff are doing really well. I spoke last week about the sort of courage that I've seen from staff on the front lines, being willing to set their fears aside in order to serve our residents and our families. And I just see that continue everywhere, as well as seeing staff supporting each other in incredible ways. And what's also been sort of exciting this week is seeing some of the staff who've been impacted by this coming back to work and recovering from this and being happy to be back working with their coworkers and our residents. And on the child and family staff, we continue to do our work every day. It just looks different. So all of our foster care workers and family preservation workers are working remotely and doing visits through FaceTime or Zoom meeting or phone. Just continuing to support families in every way they can, going out when it's absolutely necessary, but doing everything remotely, and that seems to be working incredibly well. I think there's frankly a lot we'll learn from this experience when we come out of it, but it's been pretty exciting to see, and our residential program as well for youth in the child welfare system is stable, and the staff have really carried each other through a tough couple of weeks. So overall, I think the staff are doing incredibly well. I'm just incredibly proud.
Yeah, that's great, Sean. Thanks for that. And you mentioned it's been great to see staff who might have been affected by the virus coming back to work now, and we welcome them back. But it's also worth noting that particularly in our Frankenmuth facility, where we have had some COVID cases we talked about last week, we're also seeing our residents recovering and getting ready to come back off of that isolation unit there. And so that's particularly gratifying, of course, to know that that's the case, that they're getting better in many cases and going back to their original rooms and able to sort of carry on. And so we're excited about that for them. So in other news this week, just this week, the governor put forth yet another executive order that's very specific to nursing homes. And through that order, she has really done things. One, requiring all nursing homes to create isolation units and to prepare for receiving folks who are COVID positive. I'm sure that's in anticipation of what we're seeing from the hospital side as people recover and need placement. The governor's also directing the Department of Health and Human Services to work with specific providers to set up what they're calling regional hubs, which would be very dedicated units in specific strategic regions in order to make sure key populations are served, particularly where there's a real need. And in the case of Wellspring, we've been asked to consider doing that in a couple of our facilities to be a regional hub, which would be a special designation by the state. And so we're working with the state on seeing if that should be implemented or not. We've not made any final decisions about that yet, but that's where we're at in this ongoing public health crisis. So Sean, talk a little bit about sort of what's next then, and how that all sort of impacts what this next week's going to look like potentially.
Yeah, and in light of the executive order, we're really stepping up our efforts to get the isolation and COVID recovery units that we've been working on up and running in the few facilities where they're not already operational. I think thankfully we anticipated this being a possibility weeks ago and have been preparing for it, as well as just seeing ourselves as a mission-based organization as needing to respond to the need as it continued to grow. So we've been preparing for this possibility, and now we're going to be spending the next couple weeks getting all the PPE that we can, the personal protective equipment for our staff, making sure that our protocols are airtight so that those units are sort of secure, safe for the residents and staff that are there and for the rest of the residents in our buildings, and shoring up our staff. And I'm, again, just proud and amazed by our staff who are stepping forward, wanting to and willing to work in some of those units once they're set up, because they know that's where they're needed, and this is why they got into healthcare. So we'll be spending the next couple weeks getting those put in place.
Yeah, that's great. And it's probably worth noting too that while we have a great core of staff, we're also in the hiring mode and have begun to hire and onboard some new staff as well in certain places. And so, as you're viewing this video, maybe you know somebody in an area around Wellspring that might be a good fit for us. We'd love to get to know them. And so send them our way if you would. And so just sort of wrapping up here a little bit, just want to remind you that while we're going through all this, we're trying to take care of one another and ourselves. And so yet again, this week, we've put out yet another Wellspring Cares, which is our sort of self-care and self-help sort of tips, and our professionals are putting those out, and that's been very well received. So pay attention and look for those. Also, just by way of staying in communication, if there's a question you have or a comment, a concern, that for whatever reason you're not getting answered by your local Wellspring folks or leaders, please email that to Sean and myself at covid19@wellspringlutheran.com, and we'll be attentive to that. And finally, many of you have joined us on this 30 days of prayer journey that we're on. We started April 1st to sort of use that both to bolster ourselves spiritually and each other, but also as a way of counting down the days of the 30 days of April that will get us to the end of this next sort of stay home, stay safe time. You can go to our website and catch up with those if you haven't been seeing them each day. They're all posted each day of the month, and every morning we put out another one. Join us for that. We're getting a lot of good feedback about that, and we're just happy that that they're of help and can help center us all each morning as we start our days. And so again, as we say goodbye for this Friday, thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. The celebration of Easter last Sunday was a little strange for all of us in the way that it was celebrated and marked, and yet we live in this time of hope because of who we are and our God who continues to love us and bless us. And we rely on that each and every day to get through this and to help each other through it. At the end of every day, I say to our team and others, that's one more day down and one more day closer to being out of this. And so as we wrap up this Friday, it's one more week down and one more week closer. So keep those prayers coming and take care of yourself. God bless.